So it looks like there's going to be another curtailing of free speech in Britain, as if there wasn't enough already.
Get free speech still?
We don't. We obviously don't. You remember sort of back in the day when you might chastise someone for saying something, and they would say, "Oh, it's a free country, isn't it?" No one says that anymore. It's funny, that phrase has died a death. And it is for things like this. Angela Rayner's speech at the Labour National Annual Women's Conference, she announced that they're going to make misogyny a hate crime. And I'm going to read the Labour Party's transcript of what she said, so we don't have to listen to her personally, and you can hear my voice instead of hers, which I'm sure some of you might be upset about.
But I listened to the speech. You're actually better.
Thank you very much. I'm a better woman than Angela Rayner, according to Callum.
You can make a claim.
In this day and age, yeah, you can't. I'm just going to change my gender to female so I can avoid this new law. I mean, if the Labour Party is consistent, they're going to respect my decision. I'm going to get affirmative action.
Before you start, I am going to wonder, are women going to go to jail for misogyny? I
am almost certain they're not. I mean, they haven't fleshed it out yet. They've just announced it's going to happen. Like it's like a pledge that they're going to do if they win the election, which does seem relatively likely. They're quite far ahead, aren't they? Which is a shame, but I mean, I don't want anyone to win. As in, I just want complete deadlock. The government shuts down.
Okay.
So anyway, this is what she said. She says, "I'm proud to say that in the Labour Party today, we now have more women MPs than men." So what happened to equality? You're off to a bad start. This is already midway through the speech. I've cut some bits out, but I've left context in, so I'm not trying to, do a dirty and pull things out of context. So it carries on to say, "We are turning the tide of history, but the battle isn't won. There aren't enough women around the table." Well, isn't the Labour Party over half women now? But still, it goes on to say, "You need only look at the horrific acts of powerful men abusing young women and hiding in plain sight," which is what a select few powerful men. "This is why the next Labour government will fight for every girl in this country to have a bright future, to stand up for every woman." I don't know what that word means. "To break the glass ceiling and the class ceiling. Our new deal for working people," that's some proper FDR stuff there, "will make work more family friendly, crack down on unfair pay, and improve access to justice for those who discriminate against at work. And as I was pleased to announce today, As I was pleased to announce today, Labour would properly tackle sexual harassment at work." And this is one of the most egregious claims, because she says a shocking 2/3 of young women have been sexually harassed at work. But in 2022, between 25 and 40% of people worked from home. So where's she getting those statistics from? So unless they get some percentage of people are getting harassed in their own home, or pretty much all women in the workplace outside of their home are getting harassed.
It's because of their definition of harassment, almost certainly. Whenever you see a figure that high, it will be because they include, "Have you ever had comments that are about your sex?" Well, yeah, of course, people call me female. Well, harassment. Okay.
Yeah, it's a questionable statistic, because it suggests that we're as bad as like Pakistan, like rural Pakistan even. And I would have known about this by now. I know some women, funnily enough, and they tell me things about their life. And they don't say I'm sexually harassed constantly at work. I think that would have been something that would have come up in my time on this earth. Doesn't happen.
Women don't have to wear burqas to even exist.
I know.
Strange.
What is this world? But it goes on to say, "That's why Labour's next government will amend the Equalities Act to introduce a legal duty for employers to take all reasonable steps to stop sexual harassment before it starts. And if that's legitimate sexual harassment, then fair enough, right? We don't want that going on. But that's not all," she says. "We'll make misogyny a hate crime." There it is. "Toughen sentences for perpetrators of rape and stalking." I actually agree with that, to be fair. "And half the level of violence against women and girls." That last part, not really specified how that's going to happen. "We're going to arrest all men."
It won't. It's already actually quite low. The figure's basically flat. So
it just gets a lot of attention, doesn't it? Unlike male suicide. "Women suffering the awful symptoms of menopause at work will get the support they deserve, and we will empower women entrepreneurs, and we'll tackle the crisis in women's health by training 7,500 more doctors and 10,000 more nurses and midwives each year." I mean, everyone benefits from more doctors and nurses, don't they? Is it just women?
Just women.
Okay, we've got a 2-tiered health system where if you're a woman, you've got your own specialist doctors, and if you're a man, you just get wheeled out in the back and shot.
Is that actually the Barbie world?
It might be. I haven't seen the film because I am a straight man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I presume so. We've got the Canadian solution now, apparently. So the government had previously entertained this idea, and here's an article from The Independent. Government confirms misogyny will not be made a hate crime. This was in April of this year, and this was because I think it was the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Bill, the one that you had all the Kill the Bill protests in, and the House of Lords tried to add an amendment to it to make misogyny a hate crime, and the government said no.
They asked them what misogyny was, and they couldn't define it.
Yeah, and supposedly the Law Commission warned that such a change may prove more harmful than helpful to victims and efforts to tackle hate crime. And the funny thing is that they said, this might be a bit of a silver lining, if you will, that by making it a hate crime, it's actually going to reduce convictions for things that would have already been, I presume, criminal. So they're actually potentially shooting themselves in the foot, which is kind of amusing to me, but I will see it, I'll believe it when I see it, should I say. So obviously we're against hate crime legislation for a multitude of reasons. Probably,
I believe in the equality of law.
Yes.
Which is if you commit a crime, you should get the same punishment as anyone else.
That's a very good reason.
If they commit the same crime.
Mm-hmm. Wow, radical. You believe that the law shouldn't give certain people with demographic details.
But you attacked an aristocrat. An aristocrat has special rights.
Well, don't win me round.
Okay.
Bad example, Callum.
But that's what this is. It's just declaring certain races and sexes, etc. It's the aristocratic classes.
Yes, but it's also worth mentioning as well, it empowers the government. It's another law that allows them to apply it selectively to their political opponents, and they also apply political pressure on the police. And the police is basically, in Britain, have been restructured to the point where their political control is much easier. They, take orders directly from the government, more or less now. And it's also worth pointing out as well that the police use hate crime legislation to prevent public scrutiny of their own behaviour. And take, for example, this story: Tory councillor arrested for hate crime after sharing video criticising police. And I just want to read a little bit about this. I know it's a bit of a tangent, but it's a really quite shocking story that didn't get enough attention, I don't think. But he is a Conservative councillor and he's still getting persecuted. Councillor Anthony Stevens, 50, from Wellingborough, Northamptonshire, told the Telegraph he was arrested at his home this month and escorted to the police station for questioning about tweets from his personal account, which has 76 followers. One tweet involved a video showing he could have shouted his opinions in the town centre. Apparently so, yeah. One tweet involved a video showing how police had treated and arrested a Christian preacher, a word I'll never be able to say, that's her name, in Southgate, London in 2019. A police officer snatched, it's Mr. I'm going to try it anyway. Ilisaman Mimimi. That's not it.
Is that the police officer's name?
No, it was the person's Bible.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it was that black guy from Nigeria that got arrested, wasn't it?
Yeah, it sounds like an African name. I tried. It's just, it's impenetrable, your language. But they took his Bible after the preacher was accused of being Islamophobic. Mr. African man was later awarded £2,500 for wrongful arrest. The video shared by Councillor Stevens in May also showed footage of a police officer apparently stating that a Muslim preacher was allowed to preach on a high street, which I presume is not true. So I imagine he was sharing this out saying there's double standards, the police are not doing their job. And then the police came around and arrested him for a hate crime because he was being rude about them. So yeah, the wishy-washy nature of what a hate crime is just empowers people to abuse their station, doesn't it?
Corruption is what that is.
It's also a weird thing because you can't make certain emotions criminal. It's like, are you feeling hateful? Then it's a crime. I'm sorry. Also, does the government know what's in your head? Even with our best efforts in sort of psychological testing, we can't know for certain what emotions people are feeling. So it's absurd. But anyway, it is worth mentioning as well that Keir Starmer doesn't even know what a woman is, despite being married to one. And how can they protect women if they don't define what they are? And the final point, and the most important one that I want to hammer home, is that it's too subjective in that what is legitimate political discourse and what is so-called hateful speech is very much in the eye of the beholder. and therefore it's better not to have these subjective standards because it's just going to lead to a tit-for-tat politics where people are just persecuting each other, as we are seeing now. But you could even use the example of someone citing the gender pay gap not being real as potentially being a hate crime because it's denying the lived experience of women or something like that. Like, that is the world we could live in, where actual research papers are now hate crimes. It's a perfectly reasonable interpretation. And it's not like I want to go out there and be nasty to women. In fact, it's worth pointing out that I did a series on Victorian manners and etiquette. And the Victorian view is that men should do all they can, within reason, to show kindness and make women feel at ease. And I kind of have that philosophy of, you don't be a simp, obviously, don't do that. But, just be nice to people. I know that's such a wishy-washy and annoying thing to say, but yeah, you can be against all of this stuff, and it doesn't mean you want to hate on women. It's a weird argument, in my opinion. But I thought it'd be fun to go through and look at some of the things that are getting called misogynistic, so we can see all of the things that are going to be banned and declared hate crimes. The first of which, and probably the most important, I know it's very close to your heart, Callum, is this one. Let's call the abuse of Taylor Swift what it really is, a hate crime against women. And this is the opinion of Olivia Petter, I presume, in The Independent. Apparently, this is her actual argument, by the way, that people expressing their opinions of Taylor Swift and her actions should be regarded as hate crimes. So if you disapprove of Taylor Swift having a new boyfriend every week, then that is a hate crime, according to this lady.
Strangely enough, I'm not a 12-year-old girl, so I don't follow what Taylor Swift's been up to.
No, me neither.
Or an alt-right guy. So she's got new boyfriends, and people were like...
Mm-hmm. Or people criticizing how she sings or stuff, but she's a musician, and that's how you have an opinion about music. That's kind of part of the reason why you engage in it in the first place. It's just bizarre, isn't it? But this just goes to serve that the term is so subjective that anyone can define anything as being misogynistic. And here's another one. If we scroll down here, you can get the headline. As women, we can never reclaim our bodies from misogynistic beauty standards. And who's setting these beauty standards exactly? Is it men saying, you need to look exactly like this? Or is it, fashion magazines like this one and other women?
Which are run by women and gays.
Yes. I don't think it's men that are setting these standards. And quite often, men actually react better to a more natural look than they do this horrible lip filler and orange face stuff that is pervading the British Isles. I don't know how you feel about that, Callum, but I think it makes people look hideous.
I mean, we went over the beauty stuff from that beauty account that's now harder to find. And weirdly enough, the straight male is more interested in kind of what women would typically term like, oh my God, they're into hypersexualized women. And it's like, no, it's just that's what looks better. So deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have some aversion being like, oh no, the guys want the thigh gap, shut up, just shut up.
There is also variance in men's taste as well.
Of course there is. You went through the facial features and etc. But there are some unique, universal standards, which is a booga.
Mm-hmm.
But it pretty much is how I'm going to phrase that. I think everyone knows what I mean.
Mm-hmm. The whole beauty standards thing is just Chinese whispers amongst women. This, like, a woman will have an idea about what men want. Normally it's wrong. Not always.
Thigh gap, where did that come from?
Yeah, it's just, I've never even thought about that before. It's never even entered my mind. And it's just like, okay, that's a thing now, okay. And also, it depends on someone's build, whether it looks good or not as well. So it doesn't even suit everyone. But anyway,
that's all women in fashion going to prison.
Mm-hmm. There's going to be no one left. It's just going to be like one hermit left in England. They're going to be the only free citizen. And of course, Lawrence Fox and all of GB News are all misogynistic. So apparently Lawrence Fox is going to just be arrested for being Lawrence Fox. And GB News, just an abstract broadcasting entity, is just misogynistic. Not any of the people in it, just the organisation, apparently. That's going to be banned. The Met Police, so if you say are a woman in London and you have a crime, maybe even sexually assaulted or something, and you call the police, well, they're not going to be coming for you because they're banned. They're all hate criminals because they are institutionally racist, misogynistic, and homophobic. Did you know this, Callum?
The Rainbow Police.
Yes.
We're talking about the Rainbow London Police.
Mm-hmm. They bend over backwards for every progressive thing, but no, they are, the worst. They're basically,
Hitler.
yes. I wasn't going to say it because I know how YouTube feels about it, but yes, medicine is now misogynistic. So if you are sick, you're going to have to suck it up if you're a woman because medicine is sexist. And if you want a life-saving operation, perhaps you need to think about your hurt feelings being more important. So that's worth mentioning. This one I thought was quite hilarious. This isn't obviously the UK, but it gives you an idea. But I didn't realize the Mexicans were quite far along with how woke things are.
What are they even talking about?
Mexican city to find performers for misogynistic songs. So it says, the northern Mexican city of Chihuahua will issue fines for live performances.
Chihuahua.
Yeah.
Is that real?
Yeah, well, where do you think the dog name comes from?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's from Chihuahua.
That's hilarious.
You didn't know that?
No.
You'll never believe where the German Shepherd comes from, Callum. But it says they'll issue fines for live performances of songs deemed to be misogynistic. The city council has passed a measure which will allow it to impose levies of up to 1.2 million pesos, or $72,000 or 56,000 pounds, for playing of lyrics that discriminate against women amid a pandemic of gender-based violence. When I think of Mexico, I think of gender-based violence, not, drug crime, general lawlessness, the cartels.
Drug-based violence.
Yeah. 10 women and girls are killed every day in Mexico, the United Nations says.
Is that a lot or little?
We've got no frame of reference.
Are they killed for being in...
This is like the COVID numbers in the middle of the pandemic. You need a figure to compare it to. Of
killed for what as well? For drugs? Yeah. For being bad at cooking? What? Like, are we talking about gender-based violence, or are we talking about any other type
They could have been killed by other women for all we know.
Okay. So that's literally useless information.
Mm-hmm. And apparently Chihuahua has previously clamped down on songs seen as glorifying drug crime, which kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, well done, Mexico. At least you've identified that part. I mean, the misogyny stuff, I don't know why you're focusing on that.
Man, I was going to beat my wife. But then I stopped listening to the misogynistic songs because they were banned. Now I'm not beating my wife anymore.
You can't play Led Zeppelin in Chihuahua, Mexico. Literally 1984. By the way, Led Zeppelin are great, so I'm not ragging on them, but their lyrics are a little bit questionable. And this is something I actually kind of agree with. That not the article itself, but body counts and the insidious normalization of misogyny. And I personally absolutely hate the phrase body count. It's such a horrible, dehumanizing, just like, yes, my body count is this. It's like, not only are you a degenerate, but also you're putting it as if you've murdered people. You're making it sound like they're not even human beings to you. You just sound like a psychopath is my point. And it's such a vile phrase. So I think that,
It serves a purpose. Just to inform young women that there's a damage done.
Mm-hmm. But if you're a soldier, if you're a mercenary, that's the only time you can brag about your body count. Not with this sort of stuff. Just refer to it as what it is.
Not being a whore. It's not misogynist.
I'm against being a whore. I know that's a controversial opinion, but I'm also against this term. So there is a sort of middle ground. And if you think that isn't enough, science is misogynistic. So bye-bye to science. Just all of science is misogynistic. So that's also going to be a hate crime. You're going to have some nerd doing some research paper. I know I'm saying that, but I did this, but still. And they're just going to be taken away. So you're doing science. Don't you know this hurts women? These facts, these things you're discovering about the world, they can't deal with this.
Use micro-affirmations to call out microaggressions to help others. What the did I just read?
Mm-hmm. And by the way, this is Nature as well, which is one of the most esteemed academic journals.
Sorry, sorry to hijack, but I have to look at what.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, you want me to pay? The hell with that. I'm not paying you. You're mental.
You've got to pay to access this mental illness. That's the kind of psychology I'm all about.
Okay.
But yes, obviously this is ridiculous because everything is being called misogynistic. No one really knows what it means anymore. The word has been overused, like racist, where everything is racist, everything is sexist. And everyone has to point out everything about everything. And it's
all of the time?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't want to finish it off because it's It's like being held hostage, isn't
Thanks,
it?
Anita.
But I'm really not looking forward to the actual implications, because if the Labour Party does apply this, being serious now, they are going to weaponize it against their political enemies, aren't they? That's what's going to happen. It's going to be just a way of persecuting people.
But it already is.
Mm-hmm.
On the basis of race and sex and blah, blah, blah. It's just the because you've done it because I'm a woman aspect hasn't been fully implemented.
And the thing is, I don't really talk about women that much in general in my political coverage. But even so, they're going to find something.
Well, take the example of Lawrence Fox. He would have just been charged with a crime there and then as well. That's
the funny thing is that, what's her face? Eva Santina or whatever.
Not having sex with women is misogyny.
For goodness sake.
But that's actually their argument. Don't look at me like that.
Well, I mean, incels do hate women, so there is, a grain of truth. Some of them do, anyway.
What if it's a voluntary celibacy as well? It's just, I just don't want to love.
I've just opted out of a raw deal. I mean, fair play to you if you do that. But yeah, the Labour Party is just going to use this to persecute people. And it's just the new strain of government persecution, and all hate crime should be illegal, along with government in general.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the book reviews we do, this one on the Prophets of Doom. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.